Happy Monday. Welcome to He Said, She Said, where it's male versus female, fact versus fiction, and logic versus vibes. Today's going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be he said versus he said. Whoa. It's not going to be he said versus she said, but it's going to be a communal effort to bring some light to a very important topic. It is June. It is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Did y'all know that although men make up about 50% of the population, 80% of suicides are from men? That to me was a jaw-dropping fact. I didn't think that the ratio was that uneven. But that speaks volumes on how society views men's mental health, and I think that it needs to be spoken on. I think that there needs to be some points brought up.
Yeah.
And I think that it's so prevalent in today's day and age.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I think that 80% is wild.
80% is 80%, crazy.
Like, that's our boys out there, you know? And I think a lot of that too stems from just the idea of like men not feeling comfortable with like just, you know, like talking to people or like coming up and being open and transparent about just what they're going through, you know? I think this world tells a man like he should be good, he should be strong, he should be working hard, he should, you know, just not have any issues, and because of that,
societal pressure.
Exactly. Absolutely. And that's why that number I feel like is so high. You know?
I fully agree. And I mean, you can probably name off the top of your head even like celebrities that have lost their battle with depression, and I think it's like
Mac Miller,
Anthony Bourdain, Robin Williams, one of the funniest people that America has ever known.
Right.
Like someone that brought so many smiles couldn't bring their own.
Exactly.
And so it's so prevalent, and even in our communities, it's rare to find someone nowadays that hasn't lost someone due to suicide.
Right. And I think that also goes to show too, just like how it has nothing to do with like money or status or you know, just like your career. Like anyone can face it,
and
like you'll never know.
Going for you, it has fully to do with what you have going on inside of you.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
And I think it's tough. It's definitely tough, and to know that there are so many men in a place of struggle, in a place of where they don't feel like they have the support system or the village around them that they need to ask for help or seek help or even know where to start.
Yeah, most definitely.
It's not talked about. It's not talked about enough, and there aren't enough avenues given to be like, hey, like, go here, like, go here, get some help.
Here's some resources, like, what you're going through, you know, and like just conditioning men to feel more comfortable with like seeking help.
Absolutely.
I completely agree. Yeah, and like,
because honestly, like as a man, what are some avenues that you would take to get help if you were feeling some type of way?
Yeah, personally, I've used my friends a lot, you know, like to start off, to just be so real, is like I've picked friends that are gonna support me, you know, and like that I feel comfortable with like opening up about some serious stuff, you know, and like I feel blessed to have those friend groups around to where I can sort of get that therapy, you know.
For sure.
But I think while we're speaking on therapy, I think that's a big resource that men should definitely use a lot more, is just like seeking help, seeking professional help, to where, you know, like these psychologists can help unpack some of these like super hard and traumatic experiences men have to face, you know. And I think for me growing up, I didn't know anything about therapy and whatnot, like especially being in a black home. Therapy was looked at as a white people thing, to be honest. Like that's something white people do, where it just wasn't really prevalent in my culture. Absolutely. You know. So like growing up at a young age, I was never thinking of, oh, I need to talk to somebody about this, or like, what are the tools to unpack these big situations, you know? And I think today in this world, we need to do a better job at teaching our youth that there are options for help, and that therapy doesn't have to be so scary and so culturally accepted, you know?
Absolutely.
Exactly, yeah.
And not to drag race even more into it, but 70% of the suicides from men are people of color.
Yeah.
So whether it's Latinx or Black or Asians, it's 70% of them are people of color.
Right, which is wild.
And I think it is because therapy and seeking professional help is so stigmatized.
Right.
And it is a white people thing, and it is something that people who come from money have more access to.
Yeah.
And I think that mental health help should be free.
Yeah,
I think that
come on now.
everyone should be able to access it.
Yeah.
And I think it puts a lot of the people of color communities in a place where they can't access it.
Right.
Or they don't even know where to start because it's
Right.
not something that's available to them readily.
Yeah.
And I think even in the public school system, they have guidance counselors, they have outreach counselors in the higher class public schools.
Yeah.
But then you get your lower class public schools or your mid to low income public schools or your Section 8 public schools.
Right, and they
there's
don't have
nothing.
anything,
They have
yeah.
a school resource officer and metal detectors.
Right.
And that says a lot about how we as society view view access to these things.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Most definitely. And even funnier with that is like, black men are 20% even more likely to be dealing with psychological distress. You
Absolutely,
know,
or any type of mental health, really.
Right, right.
The number is 6 million men in the U.S. get diagnosed with depression every single year, and only
Right.
37% of them seek help.
which is wild. Which is, man, I
Just
think that's
over
so
a
crazy.
third of
yeah.
them will seek help, and the others suffer in silence.
Right.
And it might be, who knows how long before they find someone that they feel comfortable enough opening up to.
Exactly.
Or they
and
can-
like right now, speaking on that too, is like there's not a lot of black therapists out there in the first place, let alone being men. So
Right.
there's 10% of all therapists are men, and only 4% are black men at that. You know, so,
And so
it
finding
makes
someone
it
that you feel
comfortable,
enough,
exactly, that you
feel like
respect,
can relate
that
to.
understands
Yeah.
the struggles you face as a black man. It's not so accessible to us.
It's
you know,
not, and it's not. There's no spectrum of like places or people that you can get help from.
Exactly.
For that demographic.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
You know, like if I do feel like opening up, I know that the person that I open up to isn't gonna look like me.
It's
you
not
know, and
gonna-
they're not
yeah.
gonna understand the day-to-day struggles that a black man faces and
Absolutely.
has to carry.
Because
you know?
y'all have your like y'all. I'm not a black man, obviously.
Right.
So like y'all
I hope
have
not.
right. Y'all have your own completely different set of struggles that you guys go through, whether your mental health is in danger or not.
You're right.
Y'all already
Exactly.
have that plate full of struggle that y'all have to deal with
Exactly.
every single day, just being a black man.
Right.
And so I think that it should be more accessible and more diverse.
Yeah.
I think that there does need to be some diversity in that field, and,
Oh, yeah.
and I think that if there was some more diversity, I think a lot more people would feel comfortable enough to even reach out for help.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed completely. I think from my experience, I mean, y'all let me know too, but like where a black man gets his therapy is mostly at like the barbershop, you know, like that 1 hour appointment every 2 weeks, you know,
where there's other black men that
There's
may
other
or
black
may
men,
not
right.
be able to relate to your struggle.
Right.
Or may just be an ear to listen because you don't have that somewhere else.
Exactly. You know, there's someone there that you respect, you know, that you
Absolutely.
trust too.
And
I mean,
and
you're in
that
the
respects
chair.
you as well. And
Exactly.
you know that like you're coming as you are to this person regardless. Like you
Right.
come in looking crazy. You come
Right.
in no haircut.
Coming like you're crazy. You trust
Right.
them. You feel me? You trust
them.
that if you
and
move,
you feel vulnerable.
that hairline
around
gonna be
them.
pushed back. You
You're
feel me?
fucked.
So you
You're
trust
really
him.
fucked. Yeah,
you trust this man
absolutely.
with your life, and in those moments
Yeah.
is like some of the only moments a lot of men get to like open up just about whatever it is, you know, and like there's a level of intimacy there too, where you know you're it's a one-on-one thing, you know, and like
Right, and it's consistently this person.
consistently this
This
person exactly.
in a sense shows up for you every week, every 2 weeks whenever you
Exactly.
get your haircut, and
Yeah.
you can count on this person.
Right. Exactly.
So I feel like that's where a lot of the comfortability comes from.
Right.
For sure.
Right. And now it's just like using that and making it now a professional assistance with these like
Absolutely.
you know what I'm saying, with these topics and things, because right, a barber is a professional therapist, you know, he can only do so much.
They're damn close though. I
Right?
will give them
Come
their
on
damn-
now, right.
Barbers, hairstylists, lash techs, nail techs, they
Right.
know all the tea.
Come on now.
They be knowing
Come on.
all the tea. And I can say I've had some real good ones. My nail tech back home, shout out Kate, love you girl.
Uh-oh.
That is my therapist. She
Yeah.
knows all my dirt. She knows all my tea. She's given me some of the best advice I've ever gotten. And like for that, like she forever has a spot in my
Right,
heart for real.
come
And
on
I'm
now.
sure like your barber's the same
Oh,
way.
easy.
Like,
Easy, my boy Johnny out there.
Yeah.
My brother Steph. Yeah.
Yep.
Come on now. We always have those moments where we just, you know, unpack.
and
you
that's
know?
important, and that's so important because I feel like a lot of a lot of men are not in communities frequently where they feel safe enough to open up.
No, for
because
real,
they're
yeah.
where at work, at the gym, which
Right.
is a hyper masculine culture.
Right.
And so, do you feel safe going up to your bro in the gym and saying, "Hey, like I'm struggling,"
Right.
or is that stigmatized?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I feel like men have been given this, you have to be hard, boys don't cry, like
Yeah.
things like that where
From like the age 10 too, which
Little,
is crazy.
real little.
You know, like, why are you crying? Stop crying like
Right,
a little
stop
girl.
crying, yeah.
You know, or like,
Yeah.
I'll give you something to cry about.
Right.
You know, and that's taught to us at a young age. So from there, now I'm 25, you know, and like
and that's been drilled into your
drilled
brain
in my
for the
brain.
last
That's my
15
foundation
years.
that I have. You get what I'm
Right.
saying?
You've
So
heard that for longer than you haven't. And so
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
once you're grown, like it's a conscious choice to undo that
Right.
traumatic way of thinking.
Exactly.
Because I think it is so stigmatized, especially with men,
Yeah.
to talk about your feelings
Oh,
because
yeah.
having feelings is weak.
Right.
And
Right.
that's also something that needs to be flipped.
Yeah.
Having
Come on.
feelings is so valid, and if you are feeling them, they're valid.
Oh yeah, come on.
And so
Come on.
I think that us women need to do a better job of leaving space and giving grace to the men in our lives and saying, hey, like this is a safe space to open up, no judgment, like come as you are, let me know what's up, and I'll use all the tools that I have in my toolbox to help.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'll never be, as much as I'd like to hop on the bandwagon, I really don't, but I'll never be on the I hate men train.
Okay.
Y'all are important. Y'all
Yeah.
are crucial
Come on now.
staples of our community,
Come on
for
now.
real.
Yeah.
And so like having a space or being the space or even holding the space for a man to be like, hey, I need help. Like I'm not okay.
Yeah.
What would you do in this situation? Or
Yeah.
even where can I go in this situation to
Right.
get the help that I need?
Yeah,
I
most
think that's so
definitely.
important, and I think it's not something that's readily available, or I think it's something that sucks to say, but women have made men feel like it's not safe to
Come
be
on
like,
now. Come on.
hey, I'm struggling.
Right, and I will say, like, a lot of the mental health stems from, like, that perspective of women thinking we're weak, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we already have the stigma of we need to be strong, you know? We need to be leaders, you know? We need to be
Providers
providers,
and protectors.
protectors, and we gotta be 100%. So when our woman does break down, we're the rock, you know? Like, we
Right.
stay strong, and if we don't have that, we're not good men.
But what
And,
about
like,
y'all rock?
But what about
Who's y'all
you
rock?
know, who's
Your
our
barber?
rock? Right. When
You see
things
them
go
once or twice a
you
month?
feel me? Like when things go wrong, like who do we talk to? And if
Right.
we do talk about it, does anyone care? You know, like is it looked at as being something serious, or is it just like you'll get over it?
Is someone
You
hearing
know?
you, or is someone listening to you? And
Exactly.
there is a difference in that.
There's a
and
whole difference.
Anyone can sit here and be an ear. You
Right.
know, like anyone can sit here and be an ear, but is that person going to take the initiative to help you and
Right.
to lead you in the right direction?
Right.
If they don't personally have the tools, are they going to point you in a direction like, hey, like
Yeah.
go see this person, or go talk to this
Right.
person, or go here and figure yourself out, you know? Like
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely.
I
most
think it's lacking
definitely.
in support as well. I think that jobs should offer some sort of counseling or some
yeah.
sort of like
Oh yeah.
guidance or something like that. I think sports teams too, because
Let's talk about sports.
aside from men being hypermasculine, putting them in a sports setting, professional athletes, like especially like putting them in a setting where you're also only around men all the
Right.
time, hypermasculine ones, and the athlete lifestyle is not a safe space to communicate your feelings
At
usually.
all. Yeah.
It's very fast paced. It's very, this is what we're doing and this is what we're sticking to. And
Exactly.
then outside of on the field or on the court, it's a lot of where are we going? What are we doing? Who are we going to be around?
Right, right.
It's not so much, hey bro, how are you genuinely?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It's-
And on top of that, it's like as a man, like I've experienced like the feeling of like not wanting to burden someone else either. You know, because it's knowing like, all right, this man is for sure dealing with his own things. Like we know, like you got stuff going on in your life. Like I don't want to add any more weight by
Right.
expressing the
Yeah.
stuff that I'm going on. You know, and like that kind of just ends up becoming this cycle of just not
Of hold
getting
it in.
help and holding it in. You know, and yeah, I definitely think, just making it more normalized of being able to like
Because
have your
if
group of
over
people
half
that you
of our
can.
population is struggling with this, why isn't it talked about?
That part.
Why is it not brought
Right.
up? Why is it not discussed? Or,
You know,
right.
why isn't that
Someone,
being talked
whether it's
about?
suicidal ideation or depression or anxiety or PTSD or things like that, even CPTSD because of something specific, like
Right.
it's not spoken on.
Yeah.
And there are so many people struggling, and there are so many people that don't know how to ask for help. It's not that they aren't willing to accept the help. They don't even know where to start.
They don't know where to start.
Because it's not talked about.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's so strange, because women really do rally behind each other on that. Like all my girls check in and say, hey, like, how are you really? Like, they won't take good. They won't take I'm okay.
Yeah.
How are you really? Like, what the fuck is actually going on?
Yeah.
And it's so commonly talked about with women.
Yeah.
But I think men don't have that space.
Yeah.
There is no space held for men to talk about their feelings.
Right.
But I think it's important to note that, like, it's not weak. If you're feeling it, it's valid. And sometimes you just need to, like, say it. You need to put it out into the universe. And sometimes just talking through it can be therapeutic.
Oh yeah, like you said, you know, like keeping everything bottled up in your mind and you trying to decipher what this is that and right and wrong just all in your mind isn't gonna help. You know, sometimes the release of it, the release is just communicating about it.
Getting it outside,
it out, you know, letting it go.
Absolutely.
Releasing that weight, you know, on your shoulders can already be like that first step of of healing, you know, of healing those hard things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think next would be just getting the help that you need to take that next step, you know? So like there's one thing of like knowing what the issue is, like being able to pinpoint it, and then there's a next step of taking action of like, all right, I see the issue. Now this is what I need to do to fix the issue, you know? And I think me personally, like I was just so blessed with like having some background to think like that, you know? So like growing up, I was in a international baccalaureate, which is come on now.
Okay,
it's basically you know, your boy got some intelligence in
He's
him.
educated or whatever.
Come on now. But basically that program taught me how to problem solve in that sense, you know, like how to pinpoint an issue, right? You know, and like from that issue create a timeline of how to
and backtrack how you want to
solve this problem, you know.
Absolutely.
And then also I was fortunate to have like some really good teachers that made these topics and you know, just I guess problem solving habits and things like that a lot more interesting, you know. Like I think it even stems back to like how you were talking about, you know, just like public schools versus private schools and things like that, is having someone that actually cares for, you know, your well-being and like wanting to give you those tools needed for the rest of your life, you know.
Absolutely.
And like I was fortunate enough to have some really good teachers that taught us how to meditate and taught us how to be mindful and you know, just to address certain you know, issues just within.
I have two teachers in my head that I am still in contact with now.
Okay, yeah,
my 8th grade business and personal finance teacher, Mr. Nickerson, and my yoga teacher in high school, Miss Doe.
Okay, and wait, you had yoga in high school?
So so once you were in your sophomore year, you had to do one regular PE your freshman year. Okay. And then sophomore, junior, and senior year, you could pick like an elective gym instead of regular PE. Right. So it was like yoga, team sports, or like line dancing. Okay, and so I picked yoga. No, really, namaste.
Come on now.
And like the way that woman held space for everyone in that class, like if you came into that class and you needed to nap for that hour and a half, she's not bothering you. You're laying down and you're napping because
I like her.
She doesn't know what you have going on at home. She doesn't know what stressors you have in your outside life. And so she held space for like, I'm going to get emotional talking about it, but that woman really held space for every kid in that classroom. Yeah. And like, that was so influential. And after sophomore year, the amount of boys that would join that class because they heard about what opportunity we have to work on ourselves, it was astounding. Yeah. There were more boys in my yoga class than girls, which is like, you wouldn't expect that. Like, what boys coming in high school voluntarily taking yoga class? Right. And they took it so serious too. Like they really did like take that shit to heart and like put effort into that class because she was such an influential human being to me. And I think that's so beautiful. And she still does it. Like I follow her on Facebook and Instagram and we communicate and she holds like twice a year, any of her old students can come back and take a class. Yeah. And she stays in contact with kids and she does leave such a space for you to be you. Yeah. And she wants that. She encourages that.
Come on now, I love it.
And I think that everyone can look back and say they have that one teacher that really did hold that space for them. Yes. As a human being and took us for who we were, no matter how fucked up we were.
Right.
Because I was
right.
not good in school. Like I was bad. Like academically, fine. I got great grades, but socially, I was not her in high school. I was hell. I was absolutely hell.
Yeah. No, I
But
feel it.
yeah,
I feel it.
it's so crucial, and I think that destigmatizing that from a younger age than you're 25 and you're just learning how to talk about your feelings, I
Right.
think that's so crucial.
Come on now, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, exactly. Because, right, not only are you learning how to deal with it and like help, but you gotta unlearn all the
toxic
bullshit
behaviors
that, you know, that was put on you, you know, as a young age. So the longer you wait, the harder it's gonna be to unlearn something, you know?
Because you're every
teaching
day,
a dog new
you're
tricks.
learning.
Yeah,
exactly.
come on, that's literally what it is.
Yep.
Nah, I feel it. I feel that so much. And it's funny you two bring up yoga, you know, because like yoga is just another way of that therapy, you know. It's that mindfulness, you know.
Absolutely.
It's breathing, you know. And I know yoga is a lot about your breath and like how you control it, and like your breath can control a lot of your emotions. So,
Your
like,
breath
a lot of people don't know that.
Like this is just a physical vessel.
Exactly.
Like you are only your breath.
Exactly.
And like that's how you operate in life. So I think learning mindfulness, I think learning to just sit with yourself in the nothingness.
Yeah.
And really think about like, where's my brain at? Why is it there? And sometimes it's not even about pinpointing a certain issue, because a lot of people with mental health, there is no certain issue. It's a chemical imbalance in your body.
Yeah.
Your body's not making enough serotonin, enough endorphins. Like you are, like if you were to scan your brain versus someone who doesn't struggle with mental health, like there's physically a difference.
Right. Literally.
Sometimes it's not, there's an issue going on. It's sometimes that's how you're made.
It's just how it is, yeah.
And you need the help.
Yeah.
Whether you think you need help or not, your brain is not wired the same as someone
same
who's
way as a normal person,
not struggling.
Right, and and I've experienced that
fault
personally.
Of their own.
Yeah. So for me, it's so I have ADHD. I was diagnosed with it in college.
Okay.
And I remember just like it was during COVID, and I just had a bunch of time. I was quarantined, and I just was like doing a bunch of research as to like, why can't I focus? You know, why am I not focused on this? Like why exactly? Like why am I doing all these other things and like all these distractions? And I ended up taking like a diagnostic test at UNLV. Like I was able to research some stuff, and I had to take all these exams and stuff, but basically they were able to diagnose me with inattentiveness, like ADHD. And like what that is like literally the chemical makeup of the chemicals that go in my brain were less than like the average person. So like I didn't produce enough serotonin to keep me motivated and whatnot to do the things that I needed to do. And like when I would see super big mundane tasks, I would just avoid them because I didn't care enough. You know, it's overwhelming.
And
exactly.
You think like, oh, I have so much stuff to do. I'd rather do nothing at all.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
And I think that that's so important to touch on as well, because that's not something that like you can't pinpoint why you're like that.
Right.
It's literally the chemicals in your body that are making you like that, and things like that. Feeling overwhelmed by tasks or not having the motivation to do tasks, that can cause anxiety and depression, because all of a sudden you're backed up on tasks, and now you
I feel less, right? I'm like, am I stupid? Or am I not this, right? You know, it's all these like self-talks that I'm like, why am I not like this other person who seems to be doing it so easily?
Right.
You know, and
I think also on that point, that's a great point to bring up, comparison.
Come on, let's talk about it.
Within men.
Yeah.
Who are you, and who are you comparing yourself to? And is that even a reasonable comparison to make?
That part.
Because people aspire to be rich or famous or have their shit in a row by a certain age.
Right.
And something that is so cool about today's day and age is you can start over at any time.
Yeah.
You don't need to go to school for a lot of the jobs now. You don't need to have anything really, any background, any experience. You have to have passion.
Yeah.
And I think that people are so caught up in making money and being rich and being able to support and provide and all this, that they forget that like, if you're doing something you're not passionate about, you're gonna hate your life.
Right.
You are. You're gonna wake up every day and say, I have to go to work, not I get to go to work.
Right.
And so I think that also causes a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of mental health issues.
Yeah.
Within day-to-day life.
Oh yeah, and I think again, like a lot of that does stem from like just like this relationship with women as well, and like the idea of like, if I have all these things together, I could at least keep my woman. You know, I could keep my woman and not lose her to someone that's better.
Right.
You know, so the idea of like comparison, like I need to make sure I have everything put together, or
so
else
that she doesn't leave.
I'm gonna leave this girl. Right, this girl's gonna leave me. You know,
Yeah.
and like sometimes you do have all that, and you still lose the girl.
Absolutely.
You get what I'm saying? So like, I think that comparison is a big thing, especially in the men's world of, you know, just like being enough. You know, being like enough for my woman, being enough for my family, being enough for myself. You know, and like, yeah, I think
Recognize the order you said those in. You put yourself last.
Come on.
How many men do that?
Probably
Every
all of
single
them.
one, Daniel,
Yeah,
probably.
come on now. And again, like that's also like something that we're trained to do is like we do come last.
Absolutely,
you know?
but when you think about it, how can you be a good part of anything if you are not a good one by yourself?
Exactly.
So you're not gonna thrive in your relationships. You're not gonna thrive in your workspace if you're putting yourself last.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it needs to be flipped and say it's okay to be selfish.
Right.
It's okay to put yourself first, and it's okay to worry about your needs first because you can't contribute to anything better than yourself if you are not good.
Come on now. Yeah,
So,
come on now. He's speaking.
Let's destigmatize that. Like let's really destigmatize that and say like put yourself first.
Right.
Be
Come on
selfish.
now.
Be an asshole. Be an asshole in society's eyes.
Yeah.
But in reality, you're not wronging anyone.
Right.
You're doing good by yourself. And that's the first step of
doing
solving
good by
a problem.
others too.
Exactly.
You know, like you can't really give somebody else something if you don't have it for yourself.
You can't pour out of an empty cup.
You can't do it. You gotta point to
And
yourself
so
first.
I think surrounding yourself with people that fill your cup, surrounding yourself with people that give you the space to communicate. How
right, and
feeling.
doing those things as well. Like sometimes it's even just in like an activity.
Absolutely.
You know, hiking
doing
or
things
hitting
that are
the gym.
therapeutic for you. The gym, yoga, breath work, meditation.
Exactly.
Hiking, hanging out with your friends.
Right.
Like that. Have you ever hung out with your friends and you feel so full inside after?
Always.
And you're just like cheesing. Like, you're like, I fucking love these people, for real.
Yeah.
Like that in itself, like even when you don't feel like being around them, you know when you leave, you're gonna feel better. And so sometimes it's about being uncomfortable and pushing yourself out of a comfort zone because you need to, not because you want to.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest like harm of it all is like the isolation of like that depression, making you feel like you have to be alone.
That's
and, like,
when it festers.
That nobody else
and
understands, and like nobody is going through the same things you're going through. Exactly. That's exactly what's gonna eat you up and make it worse. You know, it's like you feeling like you can't share with someone, or like you have to be alone to deal with it, because that's so not true. You know, there's so many people in this world that go through the exact same things that we go through, if not worse. You know?
So many of your people probably are struggling, and you have no clue. You never know what someone has going on in their head.
You never
and
know.
like we are all fighting demons. I will say we all have our demons that we fight as our 9 to 5, and that's part of life. And as an adult, that's for sure part of life. But I think if we open up that space, we open up that floor for conversation of like, just check in with your people.
Come on.
And don't let them give you that one-off answer of I'm good, I'm okay, I'm chilling.
Right, nah, it's like, nah, we go
dive
dig into
deeper,
it.
Really like pull out that dive deeper card and lay that down and say like, hey, like this is a safe space. Like I genuinely care about you. I genuinely care about your well-being. Like please let me know.
Right.
And how can I support you in this situation? What does love and support feel like to you right now? Exactly. Because the way that you feel love and support might not be the same way someone else feels it. And so I think when you are trying to give space and give grace to your people, I think it's important to say, how do you feel this?
Right.
Because how you feel it don't matter. If they don't feel it like that, it's not going to make no impact to them.
No, yeah, most definitely.
Or it's going to feel forced on them, or it's going to be overwhelming for them.
Right.
So I think really like breaking down your people's love languages in a sense is so crucial when you want to help.
Yeah, most definitely.
And just letting them know like, hey, like this is a space where you can be you and let that shit out, and you're not a burden, and I want to listen and I want to help to the best of my extent.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think that's also cool too, is because not only are you creating a space for this other person to help you out, but it's also creating a space for you to get help as well, you know? So like, for me, what I like to say is I like to be that change I want to see in the world, you feel me? So like, if there is, like with my friend group, like I'm always the one that initiates it. I'm like, hey, like what's up? Like how we going through? Like I'm gonna be open up. I'm gonna provide an example for them to see like, hey, like we can get this deep and this vulnerable.
Right,
and, like,
a model of this is what, like, we can do this.
We can do this, exactly.
Absolutely.
And I'll start, you know, I'll start it off. I'll show you that way.
That like, hey,
we can
I'm
learn
willing
from
to
each
be
other.
Open and vulnerable with you. Like you can also do the same.
You can also do the
I
same.
am a space where you can also do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And bringing up something that you were talking about a little bit earlier is just like kind of like the idea of comparison and like who are you like getting this information from? Who are you getting help from and stuff like that? I personally, again, have like a personal just experience with that of just me not growing up without a father, you know, and like not having
you didn't have that male
figure to teach me exactly to teach me what a man is and to teach me how to deal with these emotions and how to, you know, navigate just life as a black man. You know, I didn't have that example.
Do you think that has helped or hindered you in the long run?
I think it's definitely helped me, actually, and I'm fortunate enough because not everybody, you know, gets that same outcome. Share that sentiment. You know, a lot of people, it will hurt them, you know, and it will keep them constantly, you know, just looking for other things, outside things to like compare to that might not always be the best example to follow.
Did you have a male influence in your life?
Yes, I did. I had a few.
Maybe?
Yeah, I had a few for sure. To begin with, I mean, I think my biggest influence is Jesus. You know, Jesus is,
Amen.
You know, just taught me a lot about what it is to be a man and what it means to actually like serve, you know, and to my purpose sort of on this earth. And like, I'm so grateful to have that relationship and that foundation to be my example, because that's the perfect example, you know.
Absolutely.
So like, I think about it sometimes as like, what if I did know my dad and I didn't like it and it was a deadbeat person, and I now have these,
you might not have a father, but you have the father.
You know what I mean? Come on now.
Yeah.
But like, I would now am dealt with these characteristics that I can now have to unlearn, you know? And like, I guess I'm kind of glad that I didn't have to start with that in the first place, you know? Yeah. Like, I kind of just...
You started blank slate.
Exactly,
and
blank slate.
Out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I've had like men and like my coaches growing up, basketball coaches. You know, ball is life. It's always life. But I had some really cool coaches that kind of just took me under their wing, you know, and like kind of helped. They were people that I looked up to, you know. It's Absolutely. Like when I grow up someday, I want to be like that, you know. And yeah, I had a few of those, you know, just growing up.
And I'm sure it wasn't at the age where you're like, I want to be rich, I want to be famous. You just want to make an impact on people.
That part.
You just want to make people feel welcomed and feel loved and feel safe. And youth coaches, I think, don't get enough credit because you spend damn near every day with these kids.
Right.
You are spending probably 5
bad
days.
Kids too sometimes.
Badass
you feel
kids.
Me? Like...
For the majority of the time, yeah. And so you're spending five days out of the week with these kids.
Yeah.
Do you understand how big of an influence you play in their life? Exactly.
And
I think that they don't get their flowers. They really don't.
At all, right. Come on now. But like, we gotta give them a round of applause.
For real. I have coaches like that too, and you're really shaping the generation.
They are.
You really are. You are sometimes, in your case as well, the first male figure that some of these kids have.
Exactly.
And so like making a positive impact and being a positive male influence is so crucial.
Come on now. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Come on now. You said it, you know, and it's right. It's that idea of like, when I'm dead and gone, you know, what are people going to remember? You know, what are they going to say about me?
No one's going to remember how much money you had. No one's going to remember
They're going to remember how I loved, how I served,
how
you know,
treated yourself,
how I treated others,
people.
you know, and exactly. And that's what matters more than anything.
Absolutely.
You know? And I think that can't be brought out to its fullest potential without the unpacking of those traumatic experiences, without the therapy, you know, without talking to your friends and things like that. And then also just having a good example of what it is that you want to become, you know, like the type of man you want to be. So yeah, it's keeping, you know, just a good radar of like what's a good example and what's a bad example, because there are a lot of bad examples in today's, you know, world. I think
pretend to be good examples.
That pretend to be,
they really
you know?
do, and it's really a facade.
It's a facade
because these men will preach on, like get help, go find yourself, go do this and this, and then they live the exact opposite of that.
Right.
And they're the ones that are struggling.
That part,
and
you know?
They feel like since they're giving all this direction and giving all these tips and tricks and advice to people, that they don't personally have someone that they can turn to. So they're really like preaching a lie.
Right.
They really are. They're living a lie.
Or this like idea too of like, oh, you got to be an alpha male, and you know, like Andrew Tate and things like that, where they're, you know, they're coming up with all these like toxic masculinity things that sound like they make sense, but at the end of the day, it just,
when you really think about,
it harms the man that you always wanted to become.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
That vulnerable, that soft sometimes, you know, but like that can still lead. I could lead while having feelings, you know, like Jesus did it. Like, he's the best leader, you know. Why could I do it? You know, and I think again, you know, just like being able to decipher those bad examples, you know, I think that can help us go a long way with like just men's mental health.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. I think our country needs to do more in the sense of mental health and do more in providing resources and providing free resources.
Most definitely, yeah.
Because a lot of the communities that are affected the most are not white communities.
Right, at all.
They are middle and lower class communities.
Lower class communities without the money to go seek help. You know?
And help is expensive. Why is help expensive?
It costs a pretty penny for sure, you know, and right, like the thing, we have the money to do it.
We have the money to do it.
We just aren't distributing
We're not doing
in
it.
the best places. Like Australia, for instance, they spend like $1.57 million every June for men's mental health. You know, what are we doing?
What,
you know?
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
Nothing.
You know?
We are telling men that they need to be this, and that, and then expecting them to just figure it out.
Yeah.
With no tools in their toolboxes, with nothing but the basis of what they already have.
Right.
There's no extra provisions given.
Exactly.
There's nothing given.
Exactly.
And it's hard to access help.
It is.
The U.S. has made it so hard to access help. And then even if you do access help, you're going to be put on X, Y, and Z medication instead of being given tools where, like, you don't need to be given all of these things.
Right,
you
right,
just
right.
need some help.
I need some help, right. It's like I would rather someone teach me how to fish than just like
hand me
a fish, you know, teach me how to do this. Teach me how to decipher these issues, you know, so that now not only do I have the knowledge, I could pass it on too. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And and like certain things like that, like I wish I had like certain resources of therapy and things like that when I lost my mom. You know, I lost my mom last year and things were tough, you know. It was just a weird new way of just doing things and thinking about things, you know. It doesn't feel real at all. And not having a dad and now not having a mom, you know, it made me feel like I was alone, you know, and like it was up to me to figure out life and how to figure out how to be that man that I need to become, that my mom would be proud of, you know. And I didn't quite have those resources that I wish I had, but I am blessed to have the group of people that surrounded me, you know, and loved me and like reminded me who I am and reminded me of my worth and my purpose. And it honestly pushed me a lot forward than I thought it would, instead of like pushing me back. It like helped me remember that, you know what, like my mom is in a better place right now. You know, she's not in pain, she's not in suffering, but she's at peace right now. She's looking down on me,
and proud of you
and walking with me every single day.
Absolutely.
You know? She's with that behind me, you know, that just pushed me so much more further, you know. But again, like not everyone thinks like that, you know, and not everyone can get to that space. They don't have the resources.
Has that village behind
they
them.
They don't exactly. So what are they left with?
They're left with those demons that they're fighting.
This is why we got 80%, you know, of suicide, which is again just such a crazy number.
That's a wild number.
It's a wild number, man. It's wild.
Yeah, Yeah.
And I think having those, because there are some organizations and things like that are out there. I just think they need to be magnified a lot more.
For
you know,
sure.
and like just more accessible. You know, there's some really cool hotlines out there that are 24/7 that will help.
Yeah.
With therapy and counseling and things like that. And then there's also crisis hotlines and whatnot that, you know, men can reach out to get that help. That
anyone
help.
can reach out. I've called the crisis hotline, and you just get to talk to someone who will listen.
Yes.
And you do feel heard. And in very desperate moments like that, where you feel like you don't have anyone around you, and that's your last resort, is to call a stranger on the phone.
Come on.
And it's sad because why don't you have at least one person you can call?
Right.
Why has it been so stigmatized that calling someone and saying like, hey, I'm not good, like I need help, I need to talk this through, or I need your advice, why is that so stigmatized that people feel like they need to call a stranger and do that?
Right.
And it's like there are so many outlets, but how many of them are being utilized? How many of them make people feel comfortable enough to utilize them?
Right.
Or does it feel scary? Is it so obscure because it's a stranger?
Right.
Or is it good that it's a stranger because they're completely unbiased in your situation?
Yeah, come on.
And your therapist, 90% of the time, is not going to be someone you know.
Right.
99% of the time shouldn't be someone you know.
It shouldn't be, right.
It shouldn't. You should go into that with a fully open heart and a fully open mind of, this is a stranger. I am trusting them with my whole life story.
Yeah.
And being able to feel comfortable receiving help unbiased.
Yeah.
Because it's not like they can pick sides. They
Right.
can't. They'll call you out when you're wrong, and they'll side with you when you're in the right. And no matter what you need, their job is to help.
Exactly. And
their job isn't to judge you.
Right. And it's not even about being right or wrong. It's more so about how can you navigate this situation,
the trials and tribulations that you're being put through.
Exactly, the things that are in front of you. How can you navigate it? You know, and yeah, I think that is definitely needed in today's society.
Absolutely.
For sure. And now, I want to switch some things up on you though.
Yeah, go
now
for
I want
it.
to see, kind of like, flip the script. You know,
Okay.
like being a woman.
Okay.
Imagine if you were a man and you were going through some things, and you understand like this background of not feeling comfortable opening up,
Right.
you know, and that you're told like you shouldn't cry, you shouldn't do this. Just like, how would you feel? How would you manage that?
I think I can speak for a good amount of women when I say this, but there are instances and cases where women are also taught not to show emotion, not to ask for help, not to talk about their feelings. And I know I was one of those young women. We didn't really talk feelings at home. We didn't talk feelings in school. I was a very antisocial little kid, so I didn't have a bunch of friends. And when I did have friends, it wasn't a safe space for me to talk about those things. And so, in a sense, I can relate, not as a grown-up anymore, because I took the time to unlearn those things and break those cycles. But I think just any of those statements, if I flip the script, I think that those statements put way too much pressure on men. Or like, you stop crying, boys don't cry, or you don't get to feel those feelings. Like, those are girl feelings. Like, those are so incredibly detrimental. No matter how old you are, you can be a little kid and you can be grown, and hearing those is still so detrimental.
Right, it's like a trigger
to your
you know, it's just an immediate trigger of like,
absolutely,
it's time to shut off. You know, that's honestly a man's
and
like,
that's why
reaction.
Men
shut off, close down, shut off. Emotionless, nonchalant, and I'm just gonna keep pushing.
And I think it does come back to the women or to the people that say these things, and why are you saying this to this person?
Right.
And if you hold space for this person, you hold love for this person in your life, why are you putting the pressure on them to feel or to act a certain way?
Yeah.
Why aren't you
waiting
for their feelings with open arms the way that they would do for you?
Exactly.
Because women, I think, in a relationship point of view, expect their man to be their rock.
Right.
Who's your man's rock?
Come on.
Are you your man's rock?
Come on.
If you're not, think about it. I'm gonna call you and tell you about yourself.
Come on now. Come on. Let them know.
Because if your man can't come home and feel like, I can talk to this woman about anything that's going on, she's still gonna stick by me, she's still gonna support me, we wouldn't have a lot of the situations that we have.
I'm saying.
I think a lot of the issues within relationships come from there not being a level point of like, we got each other.
Right. That's equally yoked right there.
Right.
Come on now. And like you said, you know, I think honestly, as a man, like, that is gonna inspire me to keep going, you know, to go even harder. It's like when I do have those days where I'm not okay, I don't feel like a rock, I don't feel like a leader, I don't feel like, you know, confident enough in myself. And like, when I can go and have that space with my woman and like be able to, you know, feel and experience that, that's gonna make me the next day the most confident man on earth. You know, I'm like, you know what? I'm ready.
And
Let's
don't
go.
we all have those days?
You know?
I know I woke up like 2 days ago, like, I just don't feel like me.
Right.
And I stayed in my house, and my homegirl called me and said, you haven't left your house all day.
Yeah.
Which is strange for me. I usually do get out of my house and do something. And I was like, yeah, I'm just not really feeling myself. She was like, I'll be there in 15 minutes.
Hey,
Picked me up, we got lunch, we got a drink, she dropped me off back home, and I felt fine.
Yeah.
I was better. And sometimes you don't need to talk about it. You just need to not be in that space with yourself.
Exactly. That isolation.
Yeah,
you know?
and so if you notice your friends are acting weird, you notice that your friends aren't doing things that they would normally do, like, I think it's so crucial to, sometimes you don't even got to bring it up.
Come on.
Just be like, hey, I'm going to be there in 15,
Facts.
get
like,
your shit together, let's go do something.
Right. Yeah, and
Let's
it's cool
just
you
go
brought
pull
that
you
up.
out of your space like that.
Because there's signs, you know, there's signs to tell, and like. someone's going through it, especially like mental health wise.
Right.
Like I was an RA, like a resident assistant at UNLV, and I had to take like a course of, you know, recognizing suicide and prevention and stuff like that. And like some of the signs are, like you said, like not wanting to do the things that they normally love, you know, and like it's feeling the idea of isolation and like staying in their house all day, you know, or even saying things like, man, I'm done with this, or like I'm tired of this, like I hate being here. Like those are trigger signs of suicide.
And there are absolutely behaviors and signs that someone is going through something, but as a society, I think a lot of people have chosen to turn a blind eye because it's easier to turn a blind eye than offering help. You know. Have you ever been to your clean friend's house and it's dirtier than it usually would be? Like, people lose motivation for everyday tasks when they're feeling this type of way. So like, I went to my homegirl's house and her room was messy, and she's like me. She's very like organized. So silently, I start cleaning this bitch's room because like I know you need this. Whether you're willing to ask for the help or not, I know you need this. And like walking into her house, she said, "I'm sorry for the mess," and I looked at her like what mess? I know you, and I know your house this shit ain't messy. And I walked in and I was like, oh, like this ain't you. I see. Like there's something going on for real. Like there really is something going on. Or
and that's so real because I'm literally like that.
Depression mess is so real. It's and like, so many people are so embarrassed of it.
I'm just
we
whole
just
room is dirty. You know, I'm just like.
And so many people go through that. Specifically a depression mess, and that's. I know personally that's embarrassing. I don't want people in my space if it looks like that. I don't want people knowing that I let myself get to this point. Because that's embarrassing. And I think that falls back to the stigma that society places on us, where you should be perfect all the time. Or you need to have your shit together all the time. Sometimes we don't. And that's like okay. It's universal. It's okay.
Come on now.
And people would be lying if they say they've never experienced that. Whether it's personal or with someone else, like you know you have.
You know what's up.
You know you have, whether you want to admit it or not.
Exactly. And I remember doing like a little it was like an icebreaker or something, and it was like everybody lined up on a line, and they were like, everyone step forward if you know someone that has dealt with like suicide and mental health. And it was like the whole line step forward. And it was like, all right, now step forward if yourself has like ever faced like suicide and mental health, you know, and the whole line step forward, you know, and it just goes to show like it's so prevalent.
Like, if it's this prevalent in our day-to-day lives, if it's this prevalent in society, why are we not talking about it?
Why are we not talking about it?
Why do we not have the doors open for help?
Come on, and that's what we for.
That's what we for. We bringing awareness today.
Feel me? We bringing awareness.
Absolutely.
But man. So I do got some crisis hotlines. You know, so if you are dealing with mental health or suicide, there's some
whip out that notepad, boy.
Text. Come on, I came prepared.
Whip out that notepad, boy.
One, you could contact crisis support. You could call or text 988. It's a 24/7 support hotline that can get you help immediately. There's also mantherapy.org, which basically just uses like humor and man-based, conversations to help men unpack some of the situation and things like that. So make sure you go out there, get some help if you need it. We're here for you. We're rooting for you. We're proud of you. And know that you're not alone in this, all right? We all are with you, and we're gonna stand strong with it, okay?
There's also BetterHelp, which is completely online. It's a telehealth organization, and you can pick your provider. You can pick if you want a male provider of color. You can pick somebody that's gonna make you feel seen. There's also Let's Talk, which is a hotline that you can call if you or someone you know is dealing with suicidal ideations or depression or anxiety, and you just need to talk about it. You can call anytime and get that help, and BetterHelp being telehealth, you can go and access that anytime. And it's low cost. If you have insurance, it's free. Like there are avenues and there are outlets for support if you need that. And anyone in watching the show, if y'all need help, please feel free to reach out to either of us personally, and we can put you in the right direction. We can point you in a way that can bring you some guidance or some help, for sure.
Most definitely. So yeah, that's a wrap. Thank you for tuning in to He Said, She Said.
Love you, mean it.